do you wish to speak to the motion?
I would actually first like to hear from, yeah, sure, I'd first like to hear from Ms. Rotten about the work that went into this one. Can you just give us a brief on this item?
And the question is to Ms. Rout. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair LaFrance. So these actually first few items I can probably speak to as a group. These are all postponed from 124. We had already looked at these and all of these are in order. I don't have any concerns about any of these. Do you have any specific questions?
No, just, I know that you had worked through a number of these that were postponed to get them correct and in order. I don't know if this is one of those items, but that was really the first question. Otherwise, I would like to hear from members their thoughts on these appointees. This is a pretty important commission.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And some of these items have been postponed for a couple of months. I'm just wondering, are we sure that these individuals are still interested in serving on these boards? Have we done any checking in that at all? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Mr. Byrd or Mr. Colhase, would one of you address the question, please?
Sure. Through the chair to Member Peterson, I do know that Mr. Rowley and Mr. Hayes, after my discussion with the director of the AERC, Mr. Kim, I believe, they are expecting appointment. So far as I know, according to Mr. Kim, they are still able and willing to serve.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd. Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Ms. Zalatel?
Thank you. I have concerns about the mayor's appointments to any board or commission right now that deals with people. After hearing from the hand commission appointee and that the mayor put forward, Mr. Crawford, the other day, and hearing no response from the administration about some very unsettling statements, I am really reluctant to trust the mayor's discretion in these items. I understand he has the right to bring forward appointments, and we have, the oversight and the ability to ensure that those folks can collaboratively work within the framework of the municipality. The Anchorage Equal Rights Commission is an important commission, and it has an important role to play. I'm not necessarily saying this with regard to the nominees or the candidates, but just generally, I have some real concerns about the mayor's judgment in these matters. And so I'm really hesitant to vote for any appointment on boards and commissions that deal directly with people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zalatel. Is there any other discussion from assembly members? Ms. Quinn Davidson?
Just a question to my colleagues. Does anyone know any of these applicants or have any feedback? I don't know them personally. I don't know their professional roles, but I'm just wondering with each item, if people have feedback they want to share that helps me understand the applicants, that's always helpful. And maybe it's appropriate to have Mr. Byrd or whoever is recommending these individuals speak a little bit about them. I don't know.
Mr. Byrd, would you like to speak about the candidates or the appointees?
Through the chair to Member Quinn Davidson, Mr. Rowley is an attorney who's lived and practiced in Anchorage for, I think, upwards of 30 years. His resume speaks for itself as far as his community involvement with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and he's also done some mediation work with the Alaska court system. I've worked with him on a few court cases personally. I think he's a he'd be a great addition to the Equal Rights Commission. I do not know Mr. Hayes personally. I know where Dewey's Cook Inlet is, and it's a well-known business here in town for those who like to recreate. I've not spoken with him personally, but I know that there was a recommendation of the administration before I filled this role. So my understanding is that he's able and willing to serve according to Mr. Kim, and we think he's a good candidate.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd. Any follow-up, Ms. Quinn Davidson? Thank you. Next is Mr. Rivera and then Mr. Salt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess my question goes to the administration, and I suppose Mr. Byrd is there representing them at this meeting. So at yesterday's Housing and Homelessness Committee meeting, one of the things that I made a strong request of the administration is that they properly vet candidates to ensure that they would be a good fit for the various boards and commissions that you are appointing them on. And then in the end, we are approving or not their appointment. And what I don't want to be put in a position is approving someone's appointment and then being very disappointed later on to learn that they were not a good fit for that board or commission. So can you please speak to your vetting of these individuals and how you see them as good fits for this particular commission?
Mr. Byrd?
Through the chair to Member Rivera. Mr. Rivera, I will tell you the process that I have employed for the last month since I took this. So we have an application process. That's kind of a minimum requirement. We have a resume, and we have people explain why they want to serve in this volunteer role. And we ask them to specify in their resume why they think they'd be qualified. There's an application process that also assists in getting additional comments from them. From there, their applications are reviewed, and the candidates that appear to be a proper fit are interviewed by phone, and we ask them some questions. After that, we do a little bit of background information, and after that, we have a final review, and then those things are presented, and we present the names that are approved by the mayor, and then it goes to the assembly. That is the process that I'm familiar with, and I was not involved with these first slew of candidates that began, I think, in December and early January. I wasn't involved at that point in the boards and commissions process. So I presume that is the process that has been followed. Before I was associated with it, I can tell you that so long as I am the person that is assisting the administration going through this process, we'll follow that process, and we'll continue to bring forward excellent candidates for your confirmation.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd. Any follow-up, Mr. Rivera?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate your detailing of the vetting process. I think for the Assembly's edification, and if you are asking us to trust your vetting process, I think it may behoove the administration to open that window to us a little bit more, because all we get is a resume. And sometimes that doesn't really tell the full story of why that individual is interested in being in a particular board or commission, or it appears that they answered some questions on an application. Maybe those answers are relevant to our decision as the decision-making body here. So I appreciate that you go through the process, but if it's hidden entirely to the Assembly, then it's really of no value to us. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Next is Mr. Salt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is somewhat related.
Would
So
you
we've
speak up,
had
Mr. Salt? We are having a
several-
hard time hearing you.
Yes, sorry.
Thanks. Perfect.
My question is somewhat related. We've had several appointments that have come before us before that we deferred. And I don't see those appointments coming back today. So just two that come to mind, we had two library commission appointments that we pushed pending the appointment of a library director, which we now have. Is that on your agenda to bring those forward, or do we need to go through the process for everyone that's been brought forward previously again?
Through the chair to Member Salty, Mr. Salt, I am aware that there are outstanding Library Advisory Commission seats vacant. I am not aware that there is anything currently pending before the Assembly. I can tell you that it's certainly high on the priority list after this meeting. But so far as I know, there's nothing active before the Assembly. I'm happy to be corrected. As I said, I'm looking at this just for the last 45 days. But my understanding is there's nothing pending in this meeting or any other.
Any follow-up?
Thank you.
Mr.
I'll
Salt?
find them and send them to you.
Sorry about that. Would you say again, Mr. Salt?
Yes, Madam Chair. To Mr. Byrd, I'll find those appointments and send them to you, and maybe I'll take a moment and go through the past meetings and see who else is pending, so you have a complete list. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salt. I put myself in the queue. I am struggling with this one as well. And what Ms. Zelatel said about the mayor's judgment, especially with personnel issues, it's not a great track record. And so I don't have a lot of confidence in that area, especially since the mayor has been very quiet, especially after the comments that came to light from the commissioner at the hand commission. We would like to hear the administration's perspective. I'm also concerned that qualified people who have expressed interest in continuing to serve are not being reappointed, and I don't understand that, especially when there's an ongoing issue of boards and commissions having problems achieving quorum. So I'm torn on this, and I'm sure these are wonderful people, and I appreciate their willingness to serve, but I don't have a lot of confidence right now. And if someone could help me, make me feel confident, it'd be nice. I don't know if the mayor's planning on joining this meeting. It would be great to hear from him on this issue. We haven't heard anything. That would probably help me be able to make a decision about this. Thanks. Sorry, I was supposed to hand the gavel to the
fine.
vice chair.
You have the floor.
No one else is in the queue. Go ahead, Ms. Quinn Davidson.
Yeah, thank you. Kind of consistent with, I think, what Mr. Rivera was saying. Could you tell us, I know we have a lot of things on the agenda, so I'm worried about time. It's already 2:55, but could you tell us about these applicants and their interest in this specific commission? Because when I look at the resumes, the first one, I think there's a little more tie. The second one doesn't seem at all related to sort of equal rights, human rights sort of things. So I'm just interested, since I don't know them, can you tell us a little bit more about why they were selected for that commission?
Through the chair to Member Quinn Davidson, I don't have more information than what is before the Assembly right now in Mr. Hayes's resume. He is an excellent student, and it sounds like an excellent businessman, and has expressed interest in wanting to be a part of the community and to serve in that role. And so far as I know, that was the information there, along with whatever that personal interview was, which I wasn't a part of. That was part of what spurred the administration to refer him as a nomination. So I don't have personal information. I can certainly get it to you.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn Davidson. Ms. Zalatel?
Thank you. Who conducted the interview?
Through the chair to Member Zalatel, I presume it was Deputy Chief of Staff Bryce Wilbanks. He had handled boards and commissions, that's my understanding, for the entirety of the administration until his departure in January. So before he left, I helped conduct some interviews, and then He's no longer with the administration, as you know. So I'm trying to fill in the blanks as best I can. And like I said, I'm happy to go get more information if that's what the assembly would like. But I have no reason to believe that these nominees have not been vetted properly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zalatel. Mr. Constant?
Just to clarify that forgot the clerk had notified me that in the packet you have 2 copies of everything because one is the original and one is an A version. And so the motion to approve was the A version for this item.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. Seeing no other members in the queue, members may proceed to vote on the motion to approve AM 769-2022A.
Mr. Solt,
Yes.
Ms. Dern,
No.
Mr. Rivera,
No.
Mr. Sweet,
No.
Ms. LaFrance,
No.
Mr. Constant,
No.
Ms. Zalatel,
No.
Mr. Cross,
Yes.
Ms. Quinn Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Voland,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Madam Chair, that motion fails. 5 in favor, 6 opposed.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We now have before us item 4B, Assembly Memorandum Number AM 8-2023 and AM 8-2023A, Zoning Board of Examiners and Appeals Appointments, Jane McKay, Dave Hale. Action postponed from January 10, 2023 to permit a 10-day public comment period. There is no motion pending. Further postponed January 24, 2023. What is the will of the body?
Move to approve the A version.
The A version. Second. Go ahead.
A motion to approve the A version has been made by Ms. Zalatel and seconded by Mr. Constant. Ms. Zalatel, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you. I reached out to a former ZEBA member, and both of these individuals come highly recommended, and one has both served on ZEBA and the Plating Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zalatel. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve? Seeing no members in the queue, members may proceed to vote on the motion to approve AM 8-2023A.
For Green Hill Suites by Marriott Fairbanks. To get you to the right agent who can assist you, are you calling?
We're going to have to unmute him to get his vote to go. Mr. Solt,
Sorry, that was me. Yes.
thank you, Mr. Solt. Ms. Dern,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Sweet,
Yes.
Ms. LaFrance,
Yes.
Mr. Constant,
Yes.
Ms. Zalatel,
Yes.
Mr. Cross,
Yes.
Ms. Quinn Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Voland,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We now have before us item 4C, Assembly Memorandum Number AM 28-2023 and AM 28-2023A, Urban Design Commission Appointment, Ryan Lucas. Action postponed from the January 10, 2023 meeting to permit a 10-day public comment period. There is no motion pending. Action was postponed from the meeting of January 24, 2023. What is the will of the body?
Move to approve the A version.
Second.
A motion to approve the A version has been made by Mr. Constant, seconded by Mr. Volan. Mr. Constant, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, Ryan is very qualified. She's been interested in serving the community for a long time and is regularly reaching out to ask how she can help.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. Any other discussion on the motion? Mr. Volan?
Thank you. So, Shelley, this was one that says it was marked previously as seat 5, but it's seat 4 on the A version. And so are all the other seats as they should be documented terms? The A version is page 34 in the packet, and the original is page 32. So it looks like this seat number was mislabeled.
Through the chair, Member Voland, seat 4 is the correct seat.
Wonderful. Then all of the other seats, I presume, have also been corrected, or we know who's in what seat? Who's on first?
Yes, we know who's on first.
Okay, thank you.
What's on second?
Thank you.
Did you say seat 4 or seat 5 is correct?
Seat 5 is correct.
Oh, seat 5 is correct.
That is not what I said.
That's not. Am I reading this wrong? Because so on the original version it has seat 5, and then here in the drafting language, it's seat 5 is underlined and 4 is in brackets.
Which one is the A version, Mario? It should be seat 4.
Should be seat 4. Ms. Roughton and Mr. Byrd are both saying it should be seat
Correct.
4.
Yes.
So we'll need an amendment. Ms. Zalatel,
I move to amend so that line 7 reads seat 4.
is there a second?
Second.
An amendment has been made by Ms. Zalatel to edit line 7, so it reads seat 4. It's been seconded by Mr. Cross. Any further discussion? Seeking unanimous consent on the amendment. Any opposition? Seeing and hearing none, the amendment is approved. So we are now back on the main motion as amended. Any further discussion? Good catch, Mr. Volan.
Thank you.
Seeing no other members in the queue, members may proceed to vote on the motion to approve AM 28-2023A as amended.
Mr. Salt,
Yes.
Ms. Dern,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Sweet,
Yes.
Ms. LaFrance,
Yes.
Mr. Constant,
Yes.
Ms. Zolotel,
Yes.
Mr. Cross,
Yes.
Ms. Quinn Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Voland,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We now have before us item 4D, Assembly Memorandum Number AM 750-2022, also AM 750-2022A, Senior Citizens Advisory Commission appointment, Gordon Glazer, Emily McMahon. Action was postponed from December 20, 2022 and January 10, 2023, as well as January 24, 2023. No motion pending. What is the will of the body?
Move to approve the A version.
Second.
A motion to approve the A version has been made by Mr. Constant, seconded by Ms. Zalatel. Mr. Constant on the motion?
These are both well-qualified applicants. Gordon has emailed us a number of times. He's served on the board of the Senior Center, and he is well-qualified.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. Ms. Dern?
I do know Mr. Glazer. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I can speak to his passion for the senior citizens of our community, and I believe that he will serve this position well.
Thank you, Ms. Dern. Seeing no other members in the queue, members may proceed to vote on the motion to approve AM 750-2022A.
Mr. Salt,
Yes.
Mr. Salt I'm sorry, we're having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. Could you just repeat your vote?
She's a doctor.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Dern,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Sweet,
Yes.
Ms. LaFrance,
Yes.
Mr. Constant,
Yes.
Ms. Zolotel,
Yes.
Mr. Cross,
Yes.
Ms. Quinn Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Voland,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We now have before us item 4E, Assembly Memorandum Number AM 753-2022, also AM 753-2022A, Military and Veterans Affairs Commission appointment, Amal Agalawata. Action postponed from December 20, 2022 and January 10, 2023. Also, the meeting of January 24, 2023, there is no motion pending. What is the will of the body?
Move to approve the A.
Second.
A motion to approve the A version has been made by Ms. Zalatel, seconded by Mr. Boland. Ms. Zalatel, do you wish to speak to the motion? Is there any discussion? Seeing no members in the queue, members. We're going to pause just for a second here while Ms. Roughton and Mr. Byrd verify something. We're good to proceed? Thank you. Seeing no other members in the queue, members may proceed to vote on the motion to approve AM 753-2022A.
Mr. Salt,
Yes.
Ms. Dern,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Sweet,
Yes.
Ms. LaFrance,
Yes.
Mr. Constant,
Yes.
Ms. Zalatel,
Yes.
Mr. Cross,
Yes.
Ms. Quinn Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Voland,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
That motion is approved 11-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We now have before us item 4F, Assembly Memorandum Number AM 754-2022 and AM 754-2022A, Youth Advisory Commission appointment, Tegan Halsey. Action postponed from December 20, 2022 and January 10, 2023. Also, the meeting of January 24, 2023. There is no motion pending. What is the will of the body?
Move to approve the A.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
A motion has been made by Mr. Voland to approve the A version of AM 754-2022. It's been seconded by Mr. Constant. Is there any discussion? Or Mr. Voland, did you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Seeing no members in the queue, members may proceed to vote on the motion to approve AM 754-2022A.
Mr. Salt,
Yes.
Ms. Dern,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Sweet,
Yes.
Ms. LaFrance,
Yes.
Mr. Constant,
Yep.
Ms. Zalatel,
Yes.
Mr. Cross,
Yes.
Ms. Quinn Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Voland,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
That motion is approved 11-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We will now move on to new business. We now have before us item 5A, Assembly Memorandum Number AM 150-2023, Animal Control Advisory Board appointments, Frank Koloski, Catherine Forster, Pamela Schomburg. What is the will of the body?
Move to approve the A version. Oh, the regular version.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion to approve AM 150-2023 has been made by Mr. Constant and seconded by Mr. Cross. Mr. Constant, did you wish to speak to the motion? Is there any discussion? And we'll just pause to ensure members have time to quickly review if they haven't. Okay, do members have any questions? Any further discussion? Seeing no members in the queue, members may proceed to vote on the motion to approve AM 150-2023.
Mr. Salt,
Yes.
Ms. Dern,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Sweet,
Yes.
Ms. LaFrance,
Yes.
Mr. Constant,
Yes.
Ms. Zolotel,
Yes.
Mr. Cross,
Yes.
Ms. Quinn Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
That motion is approved, 11-0. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We now have before us item 5B, Assembly Memorandum Number AM 153-2023, Port of Alaska Modernization Project, PAMP Design Advisory Board. Kent Colhase. What is the will of the body?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion to approve has been made by Mr. Constant, seconded by Mr. Peterson. Mr. Constant, did you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you. I think
Ms.
he's qualified.
Zolotel?
Thank you. I won't be supporting this appointment, not because it has anything to do with Mr. Colhase, but he's in an acting position within the mayor's office, whereas Assistant or Deputy Municipal Manager Colby Hickle is not in an acting position and is currently the liaison to enterprise and utilities and would be, I think, the much more appropriate and likely long-term appointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zolotel. Mr. Byrd, go ahead, and then we'll go to Ms. Quinn Davidson.
Thank you. Through the chair to Member Zalatel, I know the administration explicitly did consider naming Ms. Hickle, who I think would also be a very good appointment, and she has more knowledge, I think, than Mr. Colhase does on this particular project at this time. I think for internal reasons that I'm not aware of, she declined. So again, if this is something that more information is helpful on, I'm happy to go back to the administration. I just want to allay Ms. Zalatel's concerns, Member Zalatel's concerns, excuse me, that was considered by the administration. If you need more information, I'd be happy to go get it.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd. Any follow-up, Ms. Zolotel? Ms. Quinn Davidson?
Actually, I was just going to ask Mr. Byrd to speak to it. So I'm not sure it answers the question, but I don't know what to do. I think just support it if that's what y'all worked out, but thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn Davidson. Mr. Cross?
Yeah, I'll support the appointment. I also have the concern about, Nicole say sitting in an active position. However, it is important. We just got done doing our legislative meetings down in Juneau, and one thing that came to our attention is how important it is for us to have a very comprehensive port commission. And we're kind of dropping that ball with making sure we're getting good information to the state on our efforts on that project. And so I look forward to working with a proactive team on making sure we're fulfilling it, because the failure of that commission, the failure of a clear team is actually jeopardizing our funding on the port. So I'll support him, but I think we have a lot of work to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Mr. Constant?
Yeah, just to be really clear, this isn't the Port Commission. This is the Port of Alaska Modernization Project Design Advisory Board, which is also a pretty critical element within the mix. But it's just not the Port Commission. And I'll support this, but Kent is the confirmed maintenance and operations, Public Works Director, the acting municipal manager, and now going to be serving on the Port Modernization Project Design Advisory Board. And at some point, that becomes too thin of one person to do the work that's required. And so the suggestion that we need him there because it's an important role, it just doesn't quite square with the time a human being has when all of the other matters of the municipality that seem to be burning down all around are priorities. And so I'll support it, but Kent, at some point you have to say no.
Kent, if you're listening.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. Ms. Zalatel?
Thank you. Actually, I'm going to move to postpone this appointment to the meeting of March 7th. If I can get a second, I'll explain why.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion to postpone item 5B to March 7 has been made by Ms. Zalatel, seconded by Mr. Constant. Go ahead, Ms. Zalatel.
Thank you. Mr. Byrd said that he might be able to get us some more information. I think Mr. Constance's point is a good one. The Port of Alaska Modernization Project Design Advisory Board has a lot coming up. This isn't a board that is on a trajectory to take up routine matters. There are some very large milestones within the next 30 days, the next 60 days. And I think it is going to be a considerable amount of work. And so I would really like to understand better either why Ms. Hickel or there isn't someone else who maybe doesn't have as much on their plate and isn't already maybe steeped in what's going on with the port pretty deeply. I think most of us know the port is quite the learning curve, particularly on the design aspects. And I think it is, as Mr. Cross said, it's such an important piece to what we're talking about in Juneau that I think taking just until next Tuesday to get that little bit more information might be the right choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zalatel. I'll hand the gavel to the vice chair. I have a question
Mr. France.
for Mr. Byrd. And I doubt that the PAMP board is going to meet before Tuesday. And so time-wise, that shouldn't be an issue, correct?
Through the chair, yes, I don't believe that's an issue. I think they're meeting on a monthly basis, but don't quote me on that.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, Madam Chair. The clerk's office just wants to point out that if this is the will of the body, it will have to be a laid on the table item as the agenda and addendum for March 7 are already published.
Sure, and then we'll come back to me and did you have a question on this, the late on the table? No, okay. So thank you, Madam Clerk, for pointing that out. And so my second question, Mr. Byrd, just to confirm, the last representative in the mayor's office was Larry Baker, correct?
Madam Chair, that is correct.
Okay. And so this position has been vacant for,
Mr. Baker resigned, I believe, at the beginning of February, and the alacrity with which I think Member Zalatel wants to act is shared by the mayor's office. So we would be happy to do whatever necessary to get this properly before the body next Tuesday.
thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Quinn Davidson.
I was just going to ask if Tuesday is a problem. I'm sure Kent is busy if he's here, but I mean, we could always just come back to it at the very end and he could pop down and speak to it too. Just throwing that out there.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn Davidson. Is there any other discussion on the motion to postpone to the meeting of March 7? We have about 12 minutes left, and Mr. Byrd, maybe you're seeing if Mr. Colhase can, okay, we can set this aside and move on to the next item. If the body's amenable, we'll go ahead and do that. We now have before us item 5C, Assembly Memorandum Number AM 152-2023, Anchorage Election Commission Appointment, Lauren Lehman. What is the will of the body?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion to approve has been made by Mr. Constant, seconded by Ms. Quinn Davidson. Mr. Constant?
Thank you. I had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Lehman recently, and it was a very warm and good conversation about his service and some other items. I've also spoken with folks who have worked under the process, the Elections Commission, and they have recommended that this be done, approved.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. Any further discussion? Seeing no members in the queue, members may proceed to vote on the motion to approve AM 152-2023.
Mr. Salt,
Yes.
Ms. Dern,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Sweet,
Yes.
Ms. LaFrance,
Yes.
Mr. Constant,
Yes.
Ms. Zalatel,
Yes.
Mr. Cross,
Yes.
Ms. Quinn Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Voland,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Motion is approved 11-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We now have before us item 5D, Assembly Memorandum Number AM 153-2023, Pre-Funding Investment Board Appointment, Jeff Wood. What is the will of the body?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
A motion to approve has been made by Mr. Constant, seconded by Ms. Quinn Davidson. Any discussion? We'll just take a moment while people turn to the page. That is page 97 in the packet. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no members in the queue, members may proceed to vote on the motion to approve AM 153-2023.
Mr. Salt,
Yes.
Ms. Dern,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Sweet,
Yes.
Ms. LaFrance,
Yes.
Mr. Constant,
Yes.
Ms. Zolotel,
Yes.
Mr. Cross,
Yes.
Ms. Quinn Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Voland,
Yes.
and Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
It is approved 11-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We now have before us item 5E, Assembly Memorandum Number AM 154-2023, Chugiak Birchwood Eagle River Rural Road Service Area Board of Supervisors. Arlene Rasick. What is the will of the body?
Move to approve.
Second.
Going to give that one to Ms. Dern.
No problem.
Move to approve by Ms. Dern, seconded by Mr. Cross. Ms. Dern on the motion to approve?
Yes, I believe that it's time to approve this. It's been pending for a long time, and Arlene comes highly recommended, so I'm happy to be here for her.
Thank you, Ms. Dern. Any further discussion? Seeing no members in the queue, members may proceed to vote on the motion to approve AM 154-2023.
Mr. Salt,
Yes.
Ms. Dern,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Sweet,
Yes.
Ms. LaFrance,
Yes.
Mr. Constant,
Yes.
Ms. Zolotel,
Yes.
Mr. Cross,
Yes.
Ms. Quinn Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Voland,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Motion is approved 11-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We will now move on to item 5F, which is the laid on the table item, unnumbered AM, Board of Ethics appointments, Kelly Moghanen, Terrence Kelly, Patrick T. Garden. What is the will of the body?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion to approve has been made by Ms. Zolotel, seconded by Mr. Constant. Go ahead, Ms. Quinn Davidson.
I'd like to move to bifurcate, please, Terrence Kelly, and then separate him from the other two.
Second.
A motion to bifurcate to take up the appointment of Terrence Kelly has been made by Ms. Quinn Davidson, seconded by Ms. Zolotel. Go ahead, Ms. Quinn Davidson.
Thank you. My understanding is that Terrence Kelly has been serving on the Board of Ethics for quite a while and doing a great job. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Byrd, but I don't think we've heard about, because this is laid on the table, I don't think we've heard about or had the opportunity to really review and learn about the candidates for seat 1 and seat 3. So perhaps we could just postpone that a little bit so that we can have some time. I don't know them at all. I don't have anything against them. It's just a time thing.
Through the chair to member Quinn Davidson. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn Davidson. Go ahead, Mr. Byrd.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Through the chair, that is absolutely correct. It was a courtesy, I think, extended by Member Constant to have this laid on the table. But we definitely want the assembly to do its proper job vetting, and I know we can count on you to do it. So the administration, for better or for worse, the administration, I don't think opposes it. We were expecting this to come up either as a regular meeting item or something at the March 31st. So no opposition from the administration.
Should I say that, or do you want?
Go ahead, Ms. Quinn Davidson.
It sounds, thank you, Mr. Bird. It sounds like Mr. Constant checked with the clerk and they were thinking the next meeting that's not having to lay it on the table, so the 21st, we could move. Anyway, I guess we're in the motion for Terrence Kelly right now, but so maybe I should hold off on that. Huh?
It's fine.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn Davidson. Any other discussion on the motion to bifurcate? Seeing no members in the queue, I'm going to ask for unanimous consent on the motion to bifurcate, and if there isn't, then we'll go to a vote. Any opposition to the motion to bifurcate, to take up Terrence Kelly's appointment separately? Seeing and hearing no objection, the motion to bifurcate is approved.
Move to approve Terrence Kelly's appointment.
Okay.
Second.
A motion to approve Terrence Kelly's appointment has been made by Mr. Cross, seconded by Ms. Quinn Davidson. Mr. Cross, did you want to speak to the motion?
No, it's self-explanatory if you'd listened to the last 3 minutes of the testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Any further discussion? Seeing no members in the queue, members may proceed to vote on the motion to approve the unnumbered AM with the appointment of Terrence Kelly to the Board of Ethics.
Mr. Salt,
Yes.
Ms. Dern,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Sweet,
Yes.
Ms. LaFrance,
Yes.
Mr. Constant,
Yes.
Ms. Zolotel,
Yes.
Mr. Cross,
Yes.
Ms. Quinn Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Voland,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Motion to approve Terrence Kelly appointment is approved 11-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll go back to item 5B, and Mr. Byrd, the clerk has something.
Madam Chair, I was just going to raise a
I
point
think
of
you
order.
still
Maybe we're
need a-
saying the same thing.
Yeah, I think
Which
you
is,
still
I was-
need a motion on the postponement.
Yeah, I was going to move to postpone Kelly Moghadam and Patrick Teagarden, seats 1 and 3, to the meeting of March 21st.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn Davidson. Ms. Quinn Davidson has made a motion to move the remaining appointments, Kelly Moghadam and Patrick Teagarden, to the meeting of March 21st. It's been seconded by Mr. Volan. Ms. Quinn Davidson, did you want to say anything further on the motion? Any discussion? Thank you, Ms. Quinn Davidson. I'm going to ask for unanimous consent on the motion to move the 2 remaining appointments to the meeting of March 21. Any opposition? Seeing and hearing none, the 2 appointments will be back before us at the meeting of March 21. Okay, thank you, Ms. Quinn Davidson, for that motion. We'll go ahead and go back to item 5B. PAMP Advisory Board appointment, Mr. Colhase. Mr. Byrd, any luck?
Yes, Madam Chair. Mr. Colhase can't break away. He's at a meeting right now. He added that the administration saw a benefit to having an engineer, Mr. Colhase, in that position, but I'm happy to go back and relay the Assembly's wishes for more information at least. But I do know that was considered that Ms. Hick will be placed in that position on the PAMP Design Advisory Board.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd. And before we move on, could I get a motion to extend by 5 minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Constant, seconded by Ms. Zolotel. Any opposition? Seeing and hearing none, we're extended for until 2:35 So we have a motion to postpone item 5B to the meeting of March 7. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Constant.
Yeah, just in the context of the clerk's concerns and laid on the table and everything happening and Kent not being able to be here because he's so busy, and the question being, is he going to have the time to serve on this board, right? The evidence before us right now with the fact that where he's serving and all of these confirmations and acting positions, the evidence before us is that he doesn't actually have the bandwidth for this work. And so I think that we have to go through extra effort to get it on the 7th is concerning to me, that maybe we also put it to the 21st if we're going to delay. And if we're going to not delay, vote it down. So I guess, I don't know if it's possible to make a motion now where we have to vote on this motion first, but I would say that the better date is the 21st.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. And Ms. Roughton wanted to add something, and then we'll go to Ms. Zolotel.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add that I checked the webpage for the port, and they are not scheduled to meet until April 2023. They don't give a specific date, but they're not scheduled to meet for a while.
Thank you, Ms. Roughton. Ms. Zolotel, and then Ms. Quinn Davidson.
Well, that information is its own concern. Yeah, I think given that information, the 21st is probably the better idea. I just want to put, my concerns into context. When this design advisory board was created, it's to help us move into like the next percentage milestone of design for the port, and that will really drive the budget and the plan of finance. Also, I know that the port is soon ready to bring forward a designer of record, basically the engineer who is going to be the one who is working closely with the design advisory board. And so I think while maybe there isn't a meeting until April, there's lots of work to be done to advance the design. And I do know that right now, if even I look at my emails, I have lots of stakeholders from the port coming and asking questions, which are ultimately going to go back to the design advisory board, and is going to take a lot of time to have someone who hasn't been involved in the port closely to establish those relationships, to hear all those interests in order to be able to make informed decisions. And I think this particular advisory board is really one of the linchpins to the port. And so I really want someone who can dedicate a lot of time and effort to this particular task. How we design the port will not only determine its resiliency, its efficiency, how it moves with us into the future, but also its cost. So I think the stakes are really high for whoever represents the mayor's office and the municipality on this board. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Zolotel. Ms. Quinn Davidson.
Thank you. I appreciate all of these concerns. I guess I feel a little uncomfortable. I would feel uncomfortable voting against this, and honestly, even postponing it too much. I mean, we know Kent to be a competent person. If the administration has decided that he's the right person to serve, I guess I feel uncomfortable questioning whether he has the time or whether this is the right thing for him to do with everything else he's working on. So I'll support it, whether it's now or later, unless we learn that there really is a problem. And I expect there isn't, but it would be great to hear from Mr. Kohlheas if we have the time.
And speaking of time, we have 3 minutes left. Are there any other members who have questions or comments, wish to get in the queue? The motion on the floor is to postpone to March 7.
Madam Chair, I'll withdraw that motion if the second will agree. Do we
Who's
know
the
who the
second?
second?
Does anyone disagree?
Yeah, does anyone disagree?
Okay. And I would make a new motion to postpone to the 21st.
Second.
A motion is on the floor to postpone item 5B to March 21. It was made by Ms. Zolotel, seconded by Mr. Constant. Anything further on the motion, Ms. Zolotel?
No, I think we've spoken to it.
Thanks. And to be on the safe side, could I get another motion to extend for 5 minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Peterson,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Constant, seeking unanimous consent. We are extended for 5 minutes until 2:40. Seeing no members in the queue on the motion to postpone to the meeting of March 21, that is AM 153-2023, members may proceed to vote.
Mr. Salt,
Yes.
Ms. Dern,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Sweet,
Yes.
Ms. LaFrance,
No?
Mr. Constant,
Yes.
Ms. Zolotel,
Yes.
Mr. Cross,
Yes.
Ms. Quinn Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Voland,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
That motion is approved 10-1.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That concludes the new business items. We are now at audience participation.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Mr. Peterson.
I would like to move to reconsider item 4A. And the reason I'm making this motion is I'm thinking of bifurcating that.
Second.
That was the very, very first item on the agenda today.
They need help.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Mr. Peterson has made a motion to reconsider item 4A, AM 769-2022A.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Rivera. What rule do you believe has been broken?
Yeah, so I believe to reconsider, you needed to have been in the affirmative. Can we just confirm that Mr. Peterson was in the affirmative for that vote? Or not in the affirmative, but on the winning side, I should
Understood.
say.
Yes, on the prevailing side. And Mr. Peterson did not vote on the prevailing side. Go ahead, Mr. Gates.
Oh, I'm sorry I can read into that determination, but I think I heard the motion was to bifurcate, and I'm sorry, to reconsider and bifurcate.
Just to reconsider.
Could I ask a clarifying question?
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Peterson.
Never mind. I was going to say they have to be separated.
Mr. Peterson, your intent was to reconsider, not to bifurcate.
Reconsider so we could bifurcate, yes. So if you want me to change the motion to reconsider and bifurcate, I will do that. But I wasn't in the
Right.
winning side, so someone
Right.
else who was in the winning side would have to do that.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Constant.
Mr. Peterson, what information do you think has changed between when we took that vote and now?
Well, I believe Mr. Raleigh has got a good resume for this board, and that's why I was going to make the motion that we approve him and get additional information on the other individual.
So how are we on time?
We have 4 minutes left.
4 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and make that motion to reconsider because I had the same thought before we voted that I can support that individual because they do demonstrate the basic qualifications. And so I would make that motion. We have a second.
A motion to reconsider item 4A has been made by Mr. Constant and seconded by Mr. Cross, and anyone can second. You don't need to vote on the prevailing side. Mr. Constant, anything further on the motion?
No, thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no members in the queue, members may proceed to vote on the motion to reconsider item 4A.
Mr. Salt,
Yes.
Ms. Dern,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
No.
Mr. Sweet,
Yes.
Ms. LaFrance,
No.
Mr. Constant,
Yes.
Ms. Zolotel,
No.
Mr. Cross,
Yes.
Ms. Quinn Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Voland,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Motion for reconsideration is approved 8-3.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to extend 5 more minutes.
Second.
A motion, thank you, Madam Clerk. A motion to extend another 5 minutes has been made by Mr. Constant, seconded by, who seconded? Mr. Peterson. So we are extended until 2:45. Okay, so where are we? We have brought this back. Chris, so now you're ready.
Move to bifurcate 4A.
No, the motion is
Not bifurcate.
So we have a motion.
Yeah. Mr. Cross has made a motion to bifurcate item 4A AM 769-2022, which by the prevailing vote to reconsider is back before us with a motion to approve. Who is the second?
I'll
Seconded
second.
by Mr. Peterson. Mr. Cross, anything on the motion to bifurcate?
Nope, just separating Ryan Rowley from Michael Hayes so that we can move to approve Ryan Rowley. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Any discussion on the motion to bifurcate? Mr. Peterson?
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that Mr. Raleigh was a former officer with Toastmasters, which is an excellent organization if you're familiar with it. And so for that reason alone, I think he qualifies for this position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Seeking unanimous consent on the motion to bifurcate. Any opposition? Seeing and hearing none, the motion to bifurcate is approved.
Motion to approve the nomination of
Ryan Rowley.
Ryan Rowley.
Second.
A motion has been made by Mr. Constant to approve the appointment of Ryan Rowley. It's been seconded by Mr. Voland. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Ms. Zalatel.
Thank you. I appreciate the efforts to bifurcate, and I think Mr. Rowley is absolutely qualified. But since we didn't have the applications or the reasons for wanting to serve on the commission put before us, and I still have very much grave concerns about the mayor's judgment in these areas, I'm going to continue to be a no. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zalatel. Mr. Rivera?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will also be a no on this vote. There is just simply too many unknowns for such an important position. And so I will be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Any further discussion? Seeing no other members,
Madam Chair.
go ahead, Mr. Constant.
So in order to provide some confidence on that question, and because folks still have concerns, and we didn't vote it down, I would move to postpone this item as well to the 21st so that we can hear from the individual and get more confidence on the nomination, if there's a second.
Second.
Mr. Constant has made a motion to postpone the bifurcated AM 769-2022A Ryan Rowley to the meeting of March 21. It's been seconded by Ms. Quinn Davidson. Mr. Constant, anything further on the motion?
Yeah, I think it's a fair compromise to allow people more information.
Any discussion? Mr. Cross?
Well, then we should have not bifurcated and just delayed them both till the 21st so that we can get information on both of them. Because then we should probably just move both to the 21st till we get information.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Anyone want to take on that procedural issue? We have 4 minutes left.
If I might, Madam Chair, I would say that I would not vote for confirmation of the other individual. He's a pilot. I don't understand his background in EOC and the issues that were related to the appointment. And so for me, it's a clear connection that a lawyer who's got lots of experience in the law, and I have a bias against lawyers a lot of the time, but in this case, it seems a proper and prudent background. So there's a difference to me between these two. And there's no document in the appointment for the other gentleman that shows anything that relates to a background that makes sense for that job.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. The motion on the floor is to postpone the bifurcated appointment, Brian Rowley, to the meeting of March 21. Any further discussion? Seeing no members in the queue, members may proceed to vote on the motion to postpone the bifurcated item to the meeting of March 21.
Mr. Solt,
Yes.
Ms. Dern,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Sweet,
Yes.
Ms. LaFrance,
Yes.
Mr. Constant,
Yes.
Ms. Zolotel,
Yes.
Mr. Cross,
Yes.
Ms. Quinn Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Voland,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
That's approved 11-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have 2 minutes left, and if there are no other motions, we'll move on to audience participation. Is there anyone here from the public who would like to participate? Okay, I don't see or hear anyone. We'll move on to assembly comments. Mr. Rivera, any comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No comments.
Mr. Solt?
No comments.
Thank you, Mr. Solt. Mr. Peterson?
No comment.
Mr. Sweet?
I actually do have one quick comment. I had tried to raise a flag to you, Mr. Byrd, about a constituent who reached out to me in late January and I was never responded to. Last name is Bachmeyer with regard to the Sister City Commission. It's something that we can speak more of offline, but it's something that she's a constituent. We need to figure this out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sweet. Mr. Voland?
This is one of the best festivals I've ever attended. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Voland. Ms. Dern?
Oh, no comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dern. Ms. Zalatel?
Thank you. Like Mr. Sweet, I recently sent someone to Mr. Byrd who's been looking at where their application might be in the appointment process. So just flagging it for you. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Zalatel. Mr. Cross?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Ms. Quinn Davidson?
I go to a lot of music festivals, and I'm sorry to say this has been the least fun festival I've been to, but we do have a good time nonetheless.
I just want to say thank you, Mr. Byrd, for bringing some sensibility to the process upstairs and helping us get through this.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn Davidson. Thank you, Mr. Constant. And thanks to both of you, Ms. Roughton and Mr. Byrd, for all your work in bringing these forward. And it is 2:45, so we are automatically adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
I'll be making t-shirts for everyone.